The galaxy had long catalogued Earth as a minor world, a small blue sphere on the fringe of a quiet spiral arm, inhabited by a species that argued among itself, divided its nations, and wasted its early centuries fighting with chemical weapons and fragile machines. And when the Galactic Council finally turned its attention to Sol, it did so with boredom rather than fear, because the great powers of the core had already subdued warrior cultures older than human history and crushed empires that spanned thousands of systems, and in comparison, the transmissions from Earth showed nothing but noisy broadcasts, uneven technology, and political confusion. So the reports filed by the first survey fleets described humanity as emotionally volatile, technologically uneven, and strategically insignificant, a species that might be useful for labor or experimentation, but never for war. And this judgment spread to the council chambers, where ancient beings of crystal, chitin, plasma, and scaled. Flesh debated borders and resources with the cold confidence of those who had never been seriously challenged, and it was there that the decision was made to pressure Earth into compliance, not with full invasion at first, but with demonstrations of force meant to break their will. Because the Council believed humans would fold as so many others had when faced with ships that could crack moons and weapons that could boil oceans, and the first fleet that entered the Sol system did so imperfect. Formation, its commander certain that fear alone would be enough. And on Earth the arrival was met with panic in the streets and emergency sessions in underground chambers where generals and scientists who had spent their lives preparing for wars against other humans now stare at images of vessels larger than cities, and some voices argue for surrender, some for negotiation, and some for silence and preparation, and among those last was a quiet group of officers and engineers who had spent decades developing systems the world had never seen, projects buried so deep that even most governments did not know their true purpose, because humanity, for all its divisions, shared one ancient instinct that had been forged in a long history of predators and prey, the instinct to prepare for the worst even when hope remained. And as the alien fleet broadcast its ultimatum demanding submission and the dismantling of all planetary defenses, the council representatives expected a frantic response, a plea, or a rapid capitulation, but instead they received only a short message, calm and measured, stating that Earth would not comply and would not be ruled. And the alien commanders laughed at first, not with humor, but with the cold amusement of those who believed the outcome already decided. And they began to display a power by firing on the outer defenses, destroying a handful of old orbital platforms that had been deliberately left visible. And when those platforms shattered in silence against the black, the council observers marked it as proof that human resistance was symbolic at best. Yet even as they did so, deep beneath the surface of Earth and far beyond the orbit of Pluto, systems that had never been activated together began to wake. Ancient bunkers opened, crews took their stations, and ships that had been hidden in the dark between stars powered up drives based on principles the galaxy had never encountered, because while the Council had been watching humanity's wars and politics, it had not been watching their research, and it had not understood that a species which had survived on a hostile world, competing with itself and its environment for millennia, had learned to innovate under pressure, to weaponize desperation, and to think not in terms of single battles, but in terms of survival of the whole. And when the alien fleet moved closer, confident that the next strike would force surrender, they detected new contacts emerging from the darkness. First dozens and hundreds, then thousands, arranged not in the rigid ceremonial patterns of the old empires, but in fluid, shifting formations that constantly changed shape. And their sensors struggled to classify the energy signatures, because the drives did not behave like any known technology, and the weapon systems drew power in bursts that defied standard models. And for the first time since their arrival, uncertainty entered the alien command network, and that uncertainty grew into alarm when human ships began to maneuver with acceleration that should have crushed organic crews, but did not. And when the first exchange of fire occurred, the Council's observers watched in stunned silence as a single human vessel, smaller than a capital ship, absorbed a focus beam that should have cut it in half and instead dispersed the energy across a layered field, then answered with a volley that punched through the shields of a cruiser and tore it apart from within. And in that moment the balance of expectation shifted, because the galaxy had assumed humanity was young and therefore weak, divided and therefore fragile, but it failed to understand that youth also meant adaptability, that division had forced competition and rapid advancement, and that a history of constant conflict had taught humans how to fight not for glory or tradition, but for survival. And as more human fleets emerged from hidden positions around the system, coordinating with a precision that came from countless simulations and hard lessons learned in their own wars, the alien commanders realized that their display of power had not inspired fear, but had triggered something far more dangerous, a unified response. And messages began to flow back to the Council not of easy victory, but of unexpected resistance, of technologies that bent known laws, of tactics that sacrificed individual ships to achieve strategic advantage, and of a species that did not retreat when outmatched but instead pushed forward harder. And in the halls of the Galactic Council, where the great powers had once dismissed Earth as a minor concern, the first whispers of doubt spread, because the early reports all carried the same unsettling conclusion that the galaxy might have been watching the wrong predators for a very long time, and that the species it thought weakest was only now beginning to show what had been preparing to become. The battle escalated across the Sol system with terrifying speed as human forces, long underestimated, began to exploit every weakness in the alien formation, using maneuvers that no star charts or tactical manuals could have predicted, because humanity had long studied not just weapons and shields, but also psychology and strategy, learning to anticipate the arrogance and hubris of those who saw themselves as inevitable victors. And as the alien fleets tried to adapt their communications, clogged with reports of ships vanishing and entire squadrons being destroyed by humans who seemed to appear out of nowhere, the Council members, previously confident, grew increasingly unsettled, realizing that the humans did not fight like other species they had encountered, for humans combined audacity with calculation, sacrificing what they could to preserve what truly mattered. And as Earth's orbital defenses synchronized with hidden interstellar units, beams of energy, missiles, and electronic warfare attacks struck simultaneously across multiple vectors, overwhelming the alien sensors and command structures, causing confusion and panic as ships collided or were torn apart by unexpected countermeasures. And the humans on the front lines were not faceless soldiers or crews, but named individuals, captains, engineers, strategists, each acting with initiative, improvising solutions, and communicating in a network that blended artificial intelligence with human intuition, so that each engagement was fluid, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. And even as the alien commanders attempted to rally their fleets, human suborbital fighters dove into tight formations at speeds no alien species considered survivable, striking at engines, weapon banks, and command centers with surgical precision. And on Earth, political leaders who had feared for the planet's survival watched in awe as decades of secret preparation, research, and daring designs finally bore fruit, knowing that every failure, every experiment, every seemingly impossible prototype had prepared humanity for this moment. And far from panicking, human civilians and workers continued their support behind the lines, maintaining factories, repair yards, and communications networks, creating a web of resilience that the aliens could not penetrate. And as the days passed, more hidden fleets emerged from distant star systems, long thought uninhabitable or abandoned, showing that humanity's reach was broader than any intelligence report had predicted, with ships that could cloak themselves, jump through uncharted corridors, and strike anywhere the Council assumed safe. And as the alien forces began to fracture under constant, unpredictable pressure, whispers of terror spread among their ranks. Because every tactic they deployed was countered by human innovation, every overwhelming force neutralized by cunning strategy, and still the humans pressed on, not just defending their home, but expanding their control, reclaiming lost orbital platforms, disabling alien command nodes, and cutting off reinforcements with raids that combined speed, precision, and relentless aggression. And in council chambers across the galaxy, debates turned into frantic arguments as advisors pleaded for retreat, for negotiation, for any course that could save their pride and fleets from the humans who seemed to bend physics, psychology, and strategy to their will. And as the battle reached the outer planets, the humans revealed yet more layers of hidden capability. Ships capable of generating massive electromagnetic pulses, fleets that could operate autonomously with perfect coordination, and weapons that altered space-time locally to disable alien shields before a strike. And each new revelation amplified the horror, because the galaxy realized with mounting dread that humans were not only prepared but had anticipated every standard form assault, and in doing so, they had turned the expected weakness of an isolated world into a multifaceted trap, a coordinated network of offensive and defensive systems that made the human response lethal at every level. And with each alien cruiser that was disabled, Each mothership that was destroyed, the humans gained not only tactical advantage, but psychological dominance, proving that fear could be weaponized just as effectively as any beam or missile. And as the alien fleets faltered, their commanders desperate to retreat, human forces pressed the attack, cutting off escape routes, seizing key positions across the solar system, and demonstrating a level of ingenuity, endurance, and ferocity that no other species had ever shown. And even the Council's most experienced members, beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, could not comprehend how a single species from a tiny, distant system had become the most feared force in known space, and as the starlit battlefield became a graveyard of alien technology, the first clear message of humanity's true intent reached the Council. The galaxy had feared the wrong species, and now there was no longer any doubt that humanity would rise to claim its place not as a minor player, but as a dominant, unstoppable force. The human advance continued with relentless precision, exploiting every miscalculation the alien forces made. And the galaxy watched in stunned silence as Earth's fleet, now fully mobilized, executed strategies that seemed almost instinctual, merging centuries of warfare experience with innovations that the Council had never imagined. And as the alien commanders scrambled to regroup, they found themselves trapped in a web of tactics designed not just to destroy ships, but to dismantle the very notion of coordinated resistance. Because humans had studied not only weapons, but movement, communication, and reaction times, predicting attacks before they occurred. And as each human squadron struck with devastating accuracy, entire alien divisions were rendered ineffective before they could respond, and the Council's reports became increasingly desperate, describing phenomena they could not classify, ships vanishing only to reappear behind enemy lines, simultaneous assaults from multiple vectors, and energy discharges that nullified entire fleets in seconds. And on Earth, the scientists and engineers monitoring the battlefield worked tirelessly to adjust, optimize, and deploy new systems, integrating artificial intelligence with human creativity to create autonomous units that could anticipate threats and adapt faster than any alien command could calculate. And as the humans pushed outward from the inner planets to the asteroid belt, they revealed hidden orbital platforms armed with weapons of devastating range and power, capable of striking multiple targets simultaneously. And while the alien fleets attempted to counter these surprises, human operatives on remote stations executed electronic warfare attacks that disabled targeting systems, communication arrays, and even propulsion of alien warships, causing collisions, chain reactions, and mass confusion. And the Council's elite observers, once confident in humanity's subservience, began to argue among themselves, some advocating immediate withdrawal, others proposing peace treaties, but all recognizing that the humans were no longer reacting. They were dictating the flow of battle, choosing where, when, and how engagements occurred. And even the largest and most advanced alien ships, built to withstand planetary bombardment, felled coordinated human tactics that leveraged speed, accuracy, and psychological warfare, because humans had learned to fight by exploiting the arrogance and overconfidence of those who assumed they would win. And as the solar system became a theater of continuous destruction, reports from the front lines described human captains taking calculated risks that alien commanders would never attempt, sacrificing vessels not out of desperation but to secure long-term strategic gains. And as the humans moved into the outer systems, their hidden reserves appeared from previously unknown colonies and secret bases, swelling the fleet with ships that had been in production for decades, concealed from observation, and each arrival struck with precision, overwhelming alien reinforcements and demonstrating that humanity's capacity for preparation and resilience was virtually limitless. And in council chambers across the galaxy, panic spread as advisors admitted that every assumption about human weakness had been wrong, that no species had ever shown the combination of ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless willpower that humans displayed. And as the aliens struggled to retreat, the humans cut off escape routes, deployed traps across jump corridors, and forced engagements on terms chosen entirely by Earth, demonstrating that the initial underestimation of humanity had become the greatest strategic error in galactic history. And with every victory, the humans not only destroyed ships but captured technology, analyzed it, and improved their own systems, turning the tools of the Council against them. And as the alien leadership convened emergency meetings, reports flooded in describing entire fleets neutralized, high-value commanders eliminated, and the psychological impact on alien forces so severe that surrender and localized battles became common. And despite this, humans did not pause, pressing forward with methodical precision, reclaiming territory, establishing defensive perimeters, and showing that the strength of a species lay not in numbers alone, but in discipline, innovation, and the will to survive and dominate. And by the time the Council fully grasped the scale of the human response, the message was clear. The galaxy had truly feared the wrong species, and humanity was no longer a minor player, but a rising force that would shape the balance of power across the stars for generations to come. Humanity's momentum in the Sol system transformed from a defensive struggle into a full-scale counteroffensive, and as alien forces tried to regroup in deep space, they discovered that every retreating path was anticipated, every jump corridor mapped and blocked by human engineers who had long studied galactic geography and faster-than-light anomalies, creating ambush points so precise that entire squadrons vanished before they could fire a single volley, and the humans themselves were not merely machines executing orders, but individuals acting with initiative, captains coordinating across vast distances through secure networks, scientists adjusting weapons in real time, and crews improvising solutions in ways the aliens could not predict, because humanity had evolved a combat doctrine that valued adaptability, creativity, and ruthless efficiency over rigid tradition. And as the battles raged, reports from alien scouts described phenomena they could not rationalize. Swarms of human fighters appearing in multiple locations simultaneously, massive energy discharges that disabled entire cruisers without touching a hull, and autonomous drones coordinating attacks with human pilots in a symphony of destruction. And the Council, which had once dismissed Earth as inconsequential, now convened in panic, debating not how humans could be stopped but how, and even the most experienced strategists could not devise a plan that accounted for the combination of hidden fleets, advanced technology, and the human ability to anticipate and exploit every weakness. And as the conflict spread from the inner planets to the Kuiper Belt, humanity revealed yet more layers of preparation. Orbital factories that produced new vessels on accelerated schedules, shielded jump gates for rapid redeployment, and experimental weapons that bent space-time locally to render enemy defenses ineffective. And every time aliens adapted to one tactic, the humans had already changed their approach, striking unpredictably, surgically, and devastatingly, so that every engagement further demoralized alien crews and shattered their confidence in the Council's command. And while the galaxy had long relied on overwhelming power and intimidation to enforce compliance, humans demonstrated that intelligence, coordination, and relentless resolve could turn any numerical advantage into a liability, and civilians on Earth and remote colonies maintained the logistical backbone of the effort, with the same dedication, keeping shipyards, energy grids, and communication networks operating at maximum efficiency under continuous pressure, while elite strike teams conducted operations deep in enemy-held regions, seizing resources, sabotaging supply lines, and capturing technology that was immediately reverse-engineered, amplified, and redeployed against its creators. And the aliens quickly realized that every human victory was not just a tactical success, but a strategic revelation. Because humans did not fight to exhaust themselves, but to expand their capabilities, to learn, to adapt, and to dominate. And as the war reached the outer reaches of the system, humans demonstrated control over environmental warfare, manipulating asteroid belts, gravity wells, and solar flares to disrupt alien maneuvers. And every strike was synchronized with attacks across multiple fronts, creating the sense that humanity was omnipresent, striking from unseen angles and disappearing before retaliation. And the Council's panic became absolute when reports indicated that humans were preparing contingencies not just for the current conflict, but for the broader galaxy, establishing hidden fleets, diplomatic networks, and research outposts beyond Sol that could challenge any alien power. And as the alien command structure collapsed under constant pressure, human leaders, strategists, admirals, scientists coordinated in real time, making decisions that accounted for thousands of variables, exploiting alien weaknesses, and forcing them into untenable positions. And every captured ship, every defeated squadron, and every technology reverse-engineered added to humanity's growing arsenal. And through all of this, the humans remained methodical, disciplined, and unflinching, proving that their strength lay not only in weaponry, but in the unity of purpose, the willingness to endure, and the capacity to innovate under pressure, and by the time the Council fully grasped the scale of what had occurred, it was too late. The galaxy had underestimated humans for the last time, and the species they thought weak had risen to command the stars with a precision, strategy, and ferocity that no civilization could match. Humanity's campaign extended beyond Sol, transforming the war into a theater of relentless expansion and systematic domination, and as alien fleets attempted to regroup at distant star systems, they found themselves consistently intercepted by humans who had anticipated every maneuver, exploiting not only their technological superiority, but also an understanding of alien psychology, because humans had studied their enemies as intensely as they had studied the stars themselves, predicting arrogance over confidence, and the predictable mistakes born from centuries of imperial hubris, and the battles became tests of adaptability rather than brute force, with human ships weaving through asteroid fields at impossible speeds, using gravitational anomalies to mask their approach, and striking enemy command vessels with precision strikes that left entire squadrons paralyzed. And while alien commanders struggled to respond, humans continued to expand, deploying hidden fleets from jump, gates established decades prior, fleets that the Council had believed were inactive or abandoned, and these ships carried advanced weapons, experimental defenses, and crews trained in tactics that emphasized initiative and improvisation over rigid formation fighting, and the psychological impact on alien forces was catastrophic, as soldiers who had never faced resistance of this kind began to panic, surrender, or retreat, breaking the cohesion of once formidable empires. And on Earth, strategists monitored every engagement, analyzing enemy movements in real time and adjusting fleet deployments to exploit weaknesses, while scientists modified weapons mid-battle, enhancing shields, weapons output, and maneuvering capabilities faster than any alien fleet could react, and humanity's engineers, logisticians, and civilians maintained the infrastructure necessary to sustain continuous operations, proving that the human capacity for resilience, coordination, and endurance was unmatched. And as the campaign progressed, human forces began to seize control of key star systems, converting them into strategic hubs, forward operating bases, and industrial centers, each one reinforcing the next and creating a network of power that extended far beyond the original Sol system. And as the alien fleets continued to falter, the Council convened emergency summits, debating retreat, negotiation, or desperate gambits, but none could formulate a strategy capable of countering the human advance, because humans did not fight predictably, they did not conserve resources, and they did not pause, instead striking continuously, learning from each engagement and turning captured technology into tools of greater destruction. And as alien morale collapsed, humanity demonstrated yet another advantage: the ability to coordinate complex multi-system operations with flawless synchronization, launching assaults on multiple fronts that forced the enemy to divide attention and resources, making every decision a potential catastrophe. And as the humans pushed into the outer rim, they revealed capabilities that had been long concealed: ships that could cloak entirely, weapons that manipulated energy in ways previously thought impossible, and autonomous drones capable of executing intricate operations without direct control. And the Council realized with growing horror that every assumption about human weakness had been entirely wrong, that every underestimation had been exploited, and that humanity had not only survived the first confrontation, but had emerged stronger, faster, and more capable than ever. And as alien empires began to crumble under pressure, humans extended diplomatic overtures not in weakness, but as a demonstration of dominance, presenting terms that made clear their control over contested systems and their ability to enforce order through overwhelming strategy. And as reports of human ingenuity, resilience, and ruthlessness spread across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed Earth began to reassess, fearful that any engagement with humanity would be catastrophic. And the Council, finally confronted with the magnitude of the threat they had ignored, acknowledged the truth that had been visible all along yet unheeded. The galaxy had feared the wrong species, and humanity, rising from obscurity and mockery, had become the defining force of the stars, a civilization whose mastery of strategy, technology, and willpower ensured that no empire could ever again challenge its ascendancy without facing total annihilation. And in this moment, the balance of power shifted irrevocably, with humans asserting control not through terror alone, but through the demonstration of intelligence, adaptability, and relentless determination. proving to every corner of the galaxy that the species once dismissed as insignificant now held dominion over the stars, and that no being, no council, no empire could ever underestimate humanity. Again, humanity's expansion continued with methodical precision, and as the alien remnants retreated to distant systems, they discovered that every corridor of escape had been anticipated, every jump gate monitored, and every potential sanctuary compromised by humans who had long mastered not only technology but strategy, because humans had studied the galaxy as relentlessly as they had studied themselves, understanding the psychology of conquest, pride, and fear, and using that understanding to manipulate their enemies into predictable patterns that could be exploited. And as fleets clashed across multiple star systems, humans demonstrated a level of coordination, innovation, and relentless adaptability that no alien civilization had ever encountered, striking simultaneously from multiple vectors, disabling communications, neutralizing shields, and executing maneuvers that seemed to defy physics, while their crews remained calm, disciplined, and focused, responding to changing circumstances in real time. And the Council, which had once dismissed Earth as irrelevant, now convened emergency sessions where the once-ignored planet became the central focus of fear and discussion, because humans were no longer reacting. They were dictating the flow of battle, forcing alien forces into positions where retreat meant destruction and engagement meant annihilation, and every captured ship, every analyzed weapon, and every reverse-engineered technology was immediately integrated into human operations, amplifying their already overwhelming advantage, while civilians across human-controlled worlds maintained the industrial, logistical, and technological backbone necessary for continuous operations, repairing ships under fire, producing new vessels at unprecedented speeds, and sustaining communications across light years of distance. And as a human offensive reached the galactic rim, they revealed capabilities that even the most imaginative alien minds had failed to anticipate. Cloaked fleets capable of instant redeployment, weapons that could manipulate gravity to crush or immobilize entire squadrons, and autonomous drones executing complex attacks with precision that rival human crews. And as the aliens struggled to comprehend the scale of the human effort, morale collapsed across their fleets, and surrender became more common than resistance. Yet the humans pressed on, not for vengeance, but to secure strategic control, stabilizing systems, establishing forward bases, and creating a network of fortified positions and mobile fleets that extended humanity's influence faster than any alien could respond. And the Council realized with mounting dread that every assumption they had made about human weakness was entirely false, that every dismissal, every mockery, and every underestimate had been exploited to maximum advantage, and in every engagement, humans demonstrated the critical combination of audacity, intelligence, and endurance, taking risks calculated to produce maximum gain while minimizing losses. And as entire alien empires began to collapse, humans extended their influence not only through force, but through the demonstration of superior technology, governance, and coordination, presenting themselves as a power that can force order and stability across systems that had long been plagued by conflict. And as reports of victories, innovative tactics, and captured technology spread across the galaxy, species that had once ignored her began to reevaluate their position, fearful that any engagement with humanity would be fatal. And within the council chambers, debates turned to panic, as advisors acknowledged that no strategy could reverse the momentum, no fleet could withstand the combined ingenuity, resilience, and relentless pursuit of dominance displayed by humans. And as the final alien remnants were cornered and their fleets dismantled, humanity revealed not only its capacity for destruction, but its ability to secure, stabilize, and integrate systems, proving that their strength was not brute force alone, but strategic mastery and adaptive ingenuity. And the message sent across the stars was clear. The galaxy had feared the wrong species, and humanity had risen not as a minor player, but as a defining force of the cosmos, commanding respect, fear, and recognition that no empire, council, or coalition could ever ignore. And with that realization, the balance of power shifted permanently, establishing humans as the species whose ascendancy would shape the destiny of the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity's rise continued unabated as their forces expanded into previously untouched regions of the galaxy, and alien civilizations that had once dismissed Earth as inconsequential now faced a full scale of human ingenuity, coordination, and relentless determination, because humans had learned over millennia to survive in a harsh, competitive environment. And that experience had been distilled into strategies, technologies, and doctrines that no species could anticipate, and as fleets clashed in deep space, humans demonstrated mastery over every facet of warfare. Fleet coordination that integrated tens of thousands of ships, tactical improvisation that adapted to enemy responses in real time, weapons capable of disabling multiple cruisers simultaneously, and autonomous systems that executed complex maneuvers without human oversight, all while human crews maintained unparalleled discipline and focus under extreme pressure. And the Council watched in disbelief as their once mighty fleets were systematically dismantled, captured, or driven into retreat, with every victory amplifying humans' ability to project power, secure resources, and expand their control. And on Earth, strategists and scientists continued to refine and deploy new technologies at a pace no alien civilization could match, converting captured systems into forward bases, reverse engineering enemy weapons, and coordinating multi-system offensives that struck simultaneously at multiple targets, ensuring that alien forces could never consolidate or respond effectively. And as humans advanced further, they revealed hidden capabilities that completely redefined the nature of interstellar conflict, including gravitational manipulation to immobilize enemy formations, energy weapons that bypass conventional shields, and stealth technologies that rendered entire fleets invisible until a moment of attack. And the psychological impact on alien crews was devastating, as they realized that every tactical maneuver they had relied upon was anticipated, countered, and exploited by humans, forcing surrender or annihilation with shocking efficiency. In the Council, desperate to regain control, debated every possible strategy, from diplomacy to overwhelming force. But none could match the humans' combination of intelligence, adaptability, and relentless drive, because humans did not merely fight. They planned, learned, and evolved in the midst of conflict, exploiting every mistake, every weakness, and every assumption their enemies held. And as the humans pressed onward, they demonstrated not only military superiority, but also strategic foresight, securing supply lines, reinforcing captured systems, and establishing governance that stabilized the regions they controlled, ensuring that victories were permanent and that their influence expanded steadily. And alien species across the galaxy began to recognize the magnitude of the threat, forming coalitions in a desperate attempt to resist, only to be systematically dismantled by human forces that anticipated and countered each alliance with precision. And as more victories accumulated, humans showed that their strength lay not only in their fleets, but in their ability to integrate science, engineering, logistics, and human will into a single unstoppable force, adapting faster than any enemy could react. And by the time the Council acknowledged the full scale of humanity's ascendancy, the galaxy had irrevocably changed. The species once dismissed as weak, primitive, and inconsequential had proven that they were the ultimate predators, and the message echoed across star systems, carried by surviving fleets, intercepted transmissions, and scattered settlements, that the galaxy had feared the wrong species, that humans had risen from obscurity to dominance, and that no civilization, no matter how ancient, powerful, or cunning, could challenge the inexorable, intelligent, and relentless force of a species that had learned, through struggle, innovation, and unyielding will, how to survive, adapt, and ultimately command the stars, ensuring the era of human supremacy had begun, reshaping the balance of power, the structure of civilizations, and the very future of the galaxy for all time. Humanity's rise reached its climax as every system within their expanding domain fell under their influence, and alien civilizations that had once sneered at Earth now trembled at the name of its species, because humans had demonstrated not only the ability to wage war with unprecedented precision and innovation, but also the foresight to secure, stabilize, and integrate every conquest into a cohesive galactic structure. And as fleets moved across the stars, humans executed maneuvers that defied all previous understanding, combining relativistic jumps, gravitational manipulation, electronic disruption, and coordinated strikes from multiple directions with a level of speed and efficiency that left alien forces paralyzed. And on every front, human captains, scientists, engineers, and strategists acted with unified purpose, improvising solutions, adapting tactics in real time, and exploiting enemy weaknesses in ways that no other species could anticipate. While civilians and logistics crews maintained the vital support networks, producing new ships, repairing damaged systems, and sustaining communications across interstellar distances, and the Council, once confident in their supremacy, could only observe helplessly as entire alien fleets were neutralized or assimilated, their empires fractured, and their leaders forced into humiliating submission. And humanity did not stop at mere destruction, but secured strategic points, converted enemy technology to their use, and implemented governance that stabilized regions, ensuring that their dominance was not fleeting but enduring. And as the outer reaches of the galaxy fell under human influence, even species that had previously ignored Earth realized with dread that they were dealing not with a minor player, but with a force that combined intellect, adaptability, resilience, and relentless willpower, and humanity's ability to coordinate massive multi-system campaigns, integrate capture technology, and innovate continuously while maintaining discipline and focus proved that no strategy, no fleet, no empire could withstand their advance. And every victory reinforced the psychological dominance humans exerted over their enemies, demonstrating that fear alone could be weaponized as effectively as any beam or missile. And in council chambers across the galaxy, leaders admitted that the species they had dismissed as insignificant had risen to claim command over the stars, rewriting the rules of warfare, strategy, and power. And as humans consolidated control over contested regions, they demonstrated that their strength was not only in military might, but in the integration of science, technology, governance, and human ingenuity, creating a network of influence and capability that no civilization could challenge. And the message echoed to the remnants of alien space. The galaxy had feared the wrong species, and humanity, once underestimated, had risen to dominate, to protect, and to command, proving through relentless action, strategic brilliance, and unyielding determination that they were the true masters of the stars, and that no force, council, or empire could ever underestimate, ignore, or challenge them again. And as the last alien fleet surrendered, retreated, or were assimilated, the full realization swept across the galaxy that a new era had begun, the era of humanity, and that the stars themselves now belonged to a species that had been underestimated for centuries, but had proven beyond doubt that their ingenuity, resilience, and courage made them the most formidable force in existence, ensuring that the galaxy would never forget the lesson learned. The galaxy had feared the wrong species until humanity rose.